Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today it's part 2 of my mini-series looking at broad nibbed pens. Today's pens, they're all from Taiwan. I've got 3 different pens to show you, and then next week we'll take a look at some pens from Japan. So join me now, down on the mat, let's jump on in and take a look at these nibs. Welcome down to the mat. Here we've got the 3 pens we're going to be looking at today. We start with the Opus 88 Koloro. We've then got a Laban 325. And then finally we've got a TWSBI Draco. Although we're not taking a look really at the pens, I just thought we'd have a quick look at them to start with. So the Draco and the Opus 88, they're very similar in size, but we've got a little bit extra length there on the Laban. Of the 3 pens, I really like the looks of this TWSBI. I think the colouring looks unusual. I do like this bit of patterning here on the Laban 325. I just like the way that the TWSBI's got it all the way through the body. And then the Opus 88, this is just a nice simple pattern. I think it looks really nice. But we're here to talk about nibs. Let's take the caps off these pens and we can take a look at the nibs. So I've taken the caps off. We've got here the Opus 88. Nice simple looking nib. It's got a little tiny border on it. We've got Opus 88 and then B. In the research I've done, same for the other pens, I've tried to find out what nib supply they use. And from what I've been able to find out, this is a Yoho nib. The Laban 325. This to me is a more complex looking nib. I like the way we've got the words coming through in a silver colour rather than just etched in. My personal choice, I like two-tone nibs, so this really starts to fetch in a little bit of that two-tone nature to it. Again, we've got a nice decorative border, we've got some writing, and again, B for broad. This one, again, from this research I've been able to find out, this is a Bock supplied nib. Then the final pen we're going to look at, this is the TWSBI Draco. It's a rose gold coloured nib. It's not a rose gold nib, it's just a steel nib that's coloured with that rose gold. Nice standard type of TWSBI logo there, and then underneath that we've got the word TWSBI. Now again, from my research, it appears that this is a Yoho nib. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick swap around, because I want to put the Opus 88 and that Draco. There we go. I can't talk and move things by the look of it. So now we've got the Opus 88 and the Draco there together. The nibs look very similar, don't they? They're both Yoho nibs. I would say to my eye, and it could be just to do with the colour of the nib, but the Draco nib does look like it's slightly wider there, whereas the Opus 88 just got that little bit of narrowness to it. Both nice nibs, as we'll see when we get to the writing sample. And talking about writing samples, let's switch on over now and fetch in the notebook of testing. Here we've got the notebook of testing. This is Oxford Optic paper. It's a B5 notebook. It's nice fountain pen friendly paper. The whole point of this video is to look at how the nibs are working. So we're going to start with the Opus 88 Koloro. It's a nice pretty pen, as I said. It's plain, but it's quite attractive in the way the patterning is. Let's take the cap off. We've got an Opus 88 Koloro. This is a broad nib. They're all broad nibs. And this was 120 Australian dollars. This pen is an eyedropper. So I'm not going to actually show you that there, me taking it out. It also has a shut-off valve, so again, making sure the shut-off valve is open. The ink is by Pure Pens, and it's John Frost. This is part of their Chartist series of inks. I like this ink. It's got a nice like tealy colour, tending more towards the green than the teal, I would say, but it also has a glorious red sheen to it. Let's do drying times. Immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, After a minute, we are smudging a little bit, but not enough to make it worth me doing a 2-minute test. I'm going to move the mic down to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. That's nice. There's smoothness to the nib. So in terms of the tactileness, there's not a lot there. It doesn't feel like it's glass that I'm writing on, but to be honest, it just feels like there's nothing there. There's no feedback coming through, but we have got that audible feedback. We have got that nice sound coming through when I'm writing. Now, you can already see most probably we're starting to get some of that red sheen coming through. Certainly up here where we've got the pen's name and the inker name, there's loads of that red sheen. Let me just see if we can catch a bit more of that. Just move this paper slightly. There we go. I'll leave that a few more seconds to dry whilst we do line variation. So here's no pressure. Here's some pressure. And that isn't that much pressure I'm putting on it. So we get a real nice wide flexible line there. It's not a flex nib, but certainly we do see line variation. And we're seeing that here with my S's. Flow. Yeah, that's nice. So what does the nib give us? The nib gives us a really generous wet line. Really nice. If you're left-handed, don't know if this might be too wet a combination for you. As you see, still after a minute, we've still got some wetness to it. I love that we're seeing this sheening coming through. To me, it's one of the things which adds character to the writing. Nice line variation, nice flow. Let's see if I can catch that sheen now for you. Yeah, that's coming through on the Grumpy Wizards as well. Look at the word toxic. Wow, I think that looks really nice. Anyway, this is the Opus 88 Koloro. Just going to move the page up ever so slightly. Pen number 2. This is by Laban. This is the Laban 325 in Cambridge Brown. As I say, it's got this nice pattern in here around the body. And then we've got plain brown for the rest of it. I don't know, I'm in two minds about this. If this patterning had gone through the whole pen, I think it would have looked quite ugly, to be honest. If the brown had have gone through the whole pen, so we got rid of this fancy bit here in the body, I actually think that would have looked quite nice. But as the combination, yeah, it's nice, it's pretty, but to my eye, I'd have liked to have seen that same colour or that same pattern going all the way through. The nib here, as we said, this is a bottle nib, and this is in a Laban 325 with a broad nib. Cost-wise, this was 147 Australian dollars. The ink is by Dominant Industry. And it's winter wood. This is a very dark brown ink. Well, as you can obviously see. Hopefully, as it dries, there is like a green sheen to it, but I do find that green sheen, it's very subtle, so I'm not sure if it will show up in today's writing. Drying times, so we go immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Finally, 1 minute. Similar to the John Frost in that Koloro, was still ever so slightly wet at a minute. Again, not really worth the time to do the 2-minute test though, because it's not overly wet. We'll move the mic and we'll do some writing. Now, I'm not sure if that came over on the mic, but it was as if it was singing whilst I was writing. There was a definite, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a high-pitched like hum as the nib's going across the paper. Whereas with the Opus 88, there was a noise, but it was a bit like, I'm going to sound really technical. With the Opus 88, it was a bit like going shh. Whereas this, it was a bit like it was humming a bit of a tune as I was writing. Let's look at line variation. So no pressure, with pressure, and then S's. This to me does feel slightly stiffer than the Opus 88 did, but I think we're seeing nicer line variation come through. The line we see in total is very similar in width. Let's see in that ink, can we see any of that green sheen? Hopefully this will come out on the camera. In dominant, I'm seeing a lot of green sheen coming through in there. Certainly, and maybe in the Laban. During Wizards, there's quite a little bit there of sheen. I do find the sheen in this ink is very subtle no matter what I'm writing with. Final test, let's go for the flow. Yeah, that keeps up quite nicely, but I'd expect that. So this, it's the Laban 325 with dominant industry winter wood. Reposition the page one more time for the final pen. So our final pen for today, the TWSBI Draco. As I said in the intro, this is such a pretty pen. I really do like the look of this pen. But again, we're here to see it write, not how it looks. So we've got here a TWSBI Draco with a broad nib. Cost-wise, 215 Aussie dollars. Most expensive pen we're looking at today. The ink, it's another one by Pure Pens. It's another part of the Chartist series. It's called People's Charter. There is a third ink in this series called Westgate Hotel, which is tending more on the blue side. I really like all three of them. They're actually made for Pure Pens by Diamine. Let's take a look at our drying times. So we go immediate. 10 seconds. Looks a lot drier, doesn't it? 30 seconds. 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. Again, we're smudging a little bit, but certainly a lot less than the other two inks. We'll do our sentence. That's another one. Very little actual physical feedback coming through my fingers. A lot of audible noise though coming off. You can certainly hear that one writing. The nib of the three is the one that feels the stiffest. Let's look for some line variation. No pressure, with pressure, and the S's. Again, that stiffness does seem to be impacting the line variation I'm seeing. And the flow. That's another one, as with the other two, keeps up really nicely. So with this ink, it's a nice, I want to say like a dark crimson colour. A little bit similar in terms of that colour to maybe something like Oxblood or Writer's Blood from Diamine. But what we have got in here is this glorious green sheen. Hoping that comes out over the camera. I'm seeing loads of it. And normally I don't see much on the page, and I see lots on the camera. But today I'm seeing loads on the page as well. We've also got some nice shading with this ink. In terms of ink, as much as I like the green inks, this is the one which really behaves best. So this is the TWSBI Draco. Now I'm going to put that to one side, give that a couple more minutes to dry. Whilst it is, I'm going to fetch in this book. This is an endless recorder notebook. It's A5. It's got 68 GSM Tomoe River paper. Now why I've brought this in is obviously I've done a little bit of writing with each pen just to explore that sheen in nature a little bit more. And stupid Gary, I didn't put it in the same order, but that's all right, we'll get away with that. Another one at the top, that's for a different pen I'm trying, that's a double broad nib. It's actually interesting seeing this on the page here because it looks a lot narrower than all these broad nibs. So we start off with the Opus 88 Koloro, which is the one in the middle. Look at this glorious red sheen coming through. Really nice, really looks really attractive to the eye. Really fetches a lot of character to the writing. With the Laban 325, not seeing much in the way of that green sheen on this. Not sure what it looks like on the camera, but certainly to my eye, it seems, to be honest, it seems very flat. Then at the bottom here with the TWSBI Draco and that Pure Pens People's Charter. We're seeing here a lot more sheen. And I'm not sure, I would say even some of the crimsons with the sheen really seem to be shining. And on here, that sheen, it looks more of a brown colour than the green I was seeing on the other paper. Let's pop this to one side and we'll fetch back in the writing samples. Let me see if I can get all three of these on the same page. Can I get it in? Just about. So we've got the Opus 88 Koloro, the Laban 325 and the TWSBI Draco. Now move that Draco up there. There we go. Now we can see all three pens at least. So what do I think about these nibs? I notice with the Koloro and the 325, we're getting a lot nicer line. Let me move the pens out of the way. They're not helping, are they? I can fetch them back in if I need to. I like the way the ink performs with the Draco, but that's down more to the ink than I think with the nib. The Laban 325, yes, we've got some of that sheen coming through, but it does look very flat. There's no shading. The John Frost, beautiful sheen. A little bit of shading, but not as much as I'm seeing with the People's Charter. Of the nibs, which do I prefer? So we'll start with position 3. Well, that goes with the Draco. I do think the nib looks nice. I like the fact we've got that rosy gold colour. I just feel that the nib feels quite stiff. It performs well, don't get me wrong. It's still a very nice nib. But of the three that I've been looking at today, that one is the one which I would say is position number 3. Let's move it down because that only gives us 2 pens left. And I'm really torn between these two. They're both really nice. I think that I'm going to give position number 1 to the Opus 88. The Laban, it's nice. You know, it looks nice. I think we've got a little bit of colour there to give a little bit of variation. This looks like it's also a number 6 nib, where the other two look more like number 5 nibs. But I just found that it doesn't feel as soft. It feels a little bit harder. Whereas with the Koloro, that feels nice. It's not bouncy. It's not gold nib soft, but it feels soft. I get really gorgeous line variation. We are seeing a little bit of shading coming through in the ink. Again, that's more talking about the ink than we are the nib. But I just think that of the three, this is the one that I enjoy using most. And I will be honest, when I've got all three inked up, this is the one that I reach for over the other two. So going forward to the grand final in about 3 weeks' time is the Opus 88 Koloro. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I know there's a number of other brands in Taiwan. I wanted to keep this list to 3 because more than that, the video will get just too long. But what other Taiwanese nibs do you think might be worth looking at? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Well, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.